I would now like to turn the conference over to Lillian Woods, Director of International Programs Division. Please go ahead.
Well, bonjour, good morning, good afternoon for wherever you are in the U.S. and overseas. I am Lillian Woods Schauber. I'm the Director of the International Programs Division, and I definitely want to welcome you to the International Programs Division's webinar on the Haiti Soil Survey Pilot Project. This is an opportunity to highlight the work that many of our scientists have been involved with internationally. Those employees who worked on this project, they're going to discuss how they increase the Haitian Ministry of Agriculture's capacity to lead soil survey activities. As a part of celebrating the 2015 as the year of the international soils, International Programs Division is providing a showcase for a discussion about the importance of soil and how soils impact our lives internationally. Those of you who do soil survey activities, you may see some similar challenges as they start discussing about as we partner or continue to partner with federal and state agencies and American Indian nations on land that have not been surveyed. So at this time, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Thomas Reich, who is the leader of the World Soil Resources, and he's going to introduce the other speakers as they roll the rest of the webinar on.
Okay, thank you very much, Lillian. Joining in this presentation today also is Tony Rolfe, who is the State Soil Scientist for Hawaii and the lead field soil scientist for the project, and also Charles Comey, who is the project leader for the project. I'd like to begin by recognizing all of our partners and participants who participated in this project. We had individuals from the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, from NRCS, from the Soil Science Division, from the National Soil Survey Center, from regional and state offices. We're grateful for all of those partners and participants who put forth a great effort to help us accomplish this project. And without you, we would not have been able to succeed in delivering the product that we have. Next slide, please. We should all know where Haiti is. It's on the west half of the island of Hispaniola. It's a fairly small country, but very highly populated. There's about 10 to 12 million people, and about 3 million of those people live in the capital of Port-au-Prince. There are 10 different departments in Haiti, and those are divided into communes, and each one of those communes is in sections. But why did we start this project in Haiti? Well, following the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, President Obama directed U.S. government agencies to examine ways to contribute toward the recovery effort and a sustainable future for the people of Haiti. The United States Department of Agriculture, Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS, as the agency with a mandate for natural resource inventory, soil survey, and the promotion of voluntary conservation initiatives on private lands, proposed to contribute toward capacity building in the Haiti Ministry of Agriculture through the Haiti Soil Survey and Natural Resources Conservation Initiative. Next slide, please. These are the objectives that we're going to talk about. The outline of what we're going to talk about. The objectives, how we prepared, methodology and training, results, and the future plans. Next slide. The objective of this project was to build capacity within the Haiti Ministry of Agriculture to provide leadership and create partnerships to conduct soil survey and develop soil information delivery tools. We used the National Cooperative Soil Survey Partnership experience and resources as a guide to build capacities. Next slide, please. Our first task was to develop a project proposal that was acceptable to USAID and the government of Haiti. This required meetings, discussions, presentations, persuasion, justification, rationale, meetings, and more meetings. The project plan included the role, responsibility, deliverable, and budget for each of these partners. Here you can see us meeting with the Minister of Agriculture and with the staff in the Ministry of Agriculture. Next slide, please. With the help of USDA and USAID personnel in Haiti, we developed a list of potential partners to meet with, to listen to their ongoing projects and priorities and identify resource concerns. We discovered that the ministries had together established a National Geospatial Center, the CNGIS. This staff unfortunately lost several key individuals in the earthquake. Part of our efforts were to help rebuild this staff, and this center became a key partner to develop and deliver geospatial data. We also discovered several laboratories that could provide soil characterization and engineering data. A plan to build capacity in these laboratories was included in the project plan. Next slide, please. As we visited with our partners to determine the government of Haiti priorities, here you can see that they are listed. Many of them have to do with providing food and nutrition, protecting natural resources, to provide employment, and to increase crop productivity so that they could improve their exports. Next slide, please. We also identified the natural resource concerns. And we discussed with the partners how the soil survey information could be used to achieve government priorities and address the identified natural resource concerns. Deliberations were held with partners to discuss the purpose and the rationale of the soil survey. We also discussed the role, the benefits, the responsibilities, the deliverables, and budget for each partner. All of this information was documented in the project plan. Next slide, please. An important step in planning was to identify the key stakeholders and the data users and obtain their input. A conference was held with introductory presentations and roundtable discussions and group presentations. The conference input was synthesized and incorporated into the project plan. Next slide, please. One of the deliberations was to identify the pilot area. The cul-de-sac was one of 4 U.S. government-focused corridors and a priority agricultural watershed. This area had LIDAR. It included the Bob Lynn Research Center. We realized that it was important to work within a geopolitical center. We also determined which soil characteristics were needed to develop the field, to needed laboratory and field measurements. Next slide, please. The USDA Foreign Agriculture Service sponsors the Cochran Fellowship Program to provide short-term training opportunities to agricultural experts. The Cochran staff were part of the USDA effort to build capacity in Haiti. We became partners to provide this key development activity. We had 5 national leaders, 3 GIS specialists, 2 database managers, 1 university faculty member, and 1 soil laboratory director. These individuals met for 3 days in Washington, D.C., for 1 week in Lincoln for the leaders, and 2 weeks in Lincoln for the specialists. All aspects of soil survey management and execution were discussed. The Haitian leaders and scientists explained how information could be adopted for use in Haiti. The National Soil Survey staff did a great job providing classroom and field training and discussion. At the conclusion of the training, the Haitian leaders and specialists were well adapted, were well versed in what they needed to do in Haiti to implement the soil survey project. And this training opportunity was an effective springboard to launch the pilot soil survey project in Haiti. We have discussed the objectives and preparation. We'll now have Tony will discuss the next item on the outline. Next slide, please. Tony, please.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I hope you can all hear me okay. It's good morning here, and it's good afternoon in other places like Lillian said, and bonjour, bonsoir, all those. And I'll just say that French was the language that was spoken formally in schools and when they were training, and Haitian Creole, very similar, was spoken in a non-formal setting. So just a little perspective on that. Tom did a good job of laying out kind of how they got to the point to get the project going, but now I'm going to take you down to the ground level when the project started and how we got things going on the ground level. Charles Comey started putting together a team of trainees probably in August 2013. The original team was Nathan Jones from South Dakota, soil scientist there, and myself. If you look at the picture on the bottom, Nathan's on the right, and I'm holding the notebook. So that was the first two part of the team. But then we realized that we needed more people out there because we needed better expertise, other expertise, and one of that was the digital soil mapping expertise. So we recruited Zamir Libdahova, and he was the third person on the team. Later we found out that he had some great international experience, so that was a good bonus too, so we appreciate that from Zamir. Then we also started thinking about, well, let's look at places that have similar soils, and we started thinking about Puerto Rico. We heard about Manuel Mantos, so we recruited Manuel, and he was happy to do that too. So he was the fourth person on the team to do the training. And then we were going to do a lot of lab sampling and detailed, and we only had a short period of time to do that. So we got one more person, Steve Monteith, out of the National Soil Survey Center, the Kellogg Soil Survey Lab, or KSSL. He's in the bottom. Manuel is in the bottom picture with the blue shirt. Steve is with the plaid shirt on the right next to Nathan. And Zamir is in the upper left picture with the blue shirt pointing at the map. So that's the basic team that got together to do the field training, the sampling, and the soil survey mapping. There's a number of other people that came out on the field, like Linda Sheffy, Sue Southard, and Rich Ferguson from the National Soil Survey Center, but they came in a later date. But so many other people that were on the scenes there that didn't come there that were helping. Again, I want to reiterate what Tom had said, that just he thanks so much for all the help we got outside of just the core team. I mean, couldn't have done it without everybody. It just was a big process. So, again, thanks a lot for that. If you look at the picture in the upper right where Charles Comey is standing, we originally had thought about we were going to get 5 to 10 trainees. Lo and behold, over time, when we got there, they ended up being 36. So that made some logistics a little difficult. But you can see the packed classroom. Anyway, next slide, please. So I'll give you a little background on the area. So if you look at the map on the upper left, that's the hillshade map. You can see the boundary area in yellow. So the project area was about 3,000 hectares, or about 7,400 acres. The elevation ranged from 150 feet, which would be up in the upper right, to about 1,200 feet to the very south. So about 150 to 1,200 feet elevation change. Precip in the area was about 30 to 40 inches. It's in the tropics, so the soils are isohyperthermic. That's the temperature regime. And the moisture regime was acidic but bordering on aeritic. So it's fairly dry, and we are actually there during a drought. But there are 2 distinct rainy periods in Haiti also. And we just got out of there just at the end, and we got to see some of those heavy rains and some of the flooding in the streets as well. So we did see the drought, and we saw the rain. So if you look at the hillshade map on the left again, the dominant landform there are the nearly level plains, and you can kind of see the topography. It's fairly flat there, not the rough areas, but the dominant areas are the alluvial plains, and there's very high calcareous soils. A lot of lime in those materials. So then if you look a little bit to the north, you see a rough area, and to the south, more of a rough terrain. Those are the foothills. And they're older alluvium that's been dissected, and also some calcareous sedimentary rocks. The southern boundary, you can see kind of a smoother area just below the foothills on the south. That's a moderately steep alluvial fan coming out of the steep mountains to the south. We didn't get into the mountains to the south, and they rose up to 8,000 feet just south of the survey area. And they are composed of calcareous limestones and calcareous rocks. So that was the source of much of the alluvium in the project area to the south. There's two rivers, one on the east and west, the White and the Gray River, that contributed to all the alluvium in this area. If you look at the right, fortunately we did have 1 meter LIDAR, which was available to create a lot of the digital maps. And thanks to Tom Diavello and Zamir for doing that. They did some magic with the LIDAR and produced some very great maps to help us out in the field. Go ahead, next slide. So the main two objectives of the project on the ground was, number one, to train the agronomy engineers on performing soil survey. And I say agronomy engineers. They all graduated from the University of Haiti in agronomy, so they're very sharp and bright. And I'll just say a side note on that. And Lillian was there in September. We were there, and so was Leonard Jordan. We were at the university, and there was just flooded with maybe 5,000. Well, what we learned, there was like 5,000 potential students had come to the university. But come to find out that they were all coming there to vie for 100 slots. There was only 100 slots in the university each year that graduate agronomy engineers. So 5,000 students had come, only 100 would get selected. So this group here had gone through that, so they were very, they're creme de la creme. So this was really the first-hand experience they had in the actually literally getting in the dirt, getting their hands in the soil, first time. They're more in the system, their education system kind of follows the French model, which is more theoretical, and they're more booked in the book. But here they actually got their hands in the soil and did texturing, and they all loved it. It was great. It's good to see them do that. So what we started with, and you can see Nathan down in the pit, and we had a backhoe pit, which was good, to do our training for the first part, which was showing them how to do detailed soil description. So we did that with about 3 or 4 pits we had dug, and they were able to get really good education on describing soils. So now, of course, most of them spoke French and Creole, so we had to have translators. Translators weren't always there, so a lot of times we had to depend on limited people that could do limited English-speaking skills. But if you look up at the upper right, the woman with the white Elda, she manages the lab at that center we were training at. She was pretty good with English translation, so she helped out at this situation here. One thing we kept drilling into this group, and I think Zamir did this the most, was look at the big picture. Even though they're looking at the pit here, we wanted them to think about landscapes and the big picture, and then go to describing. So that was a theme we kept pushing into them. Look at the big picture. All right, next slide, please. So we train the students in two ways: traditional soil mapping, and then also digital soil mapping techniques. You look at the map on the right. That is points were selected on that map. Those are all soil sites that were selected, but that was done using Latin hypercube method. There was 150 points selected in the area, and I'm not going to explain Latin hypercube to you, but I can guarantee you if you want to call Tom Diavello or Zamir, they can give you the full story on that one. But that's how we selected the points, which has actually worked out very well, because with the language barrier, we could give the trainees the coordinates to the points. They knew how to use GPS very well. They entered the points. They navigated to the site. They had been trained in describing the soil. They went out there and described and selected samples. So that worked out very well, having the Latin hypercube points selected. If you look at the left map, that's the progress map. So when they completed their points, we had 150 points to go to. When they completed them, they would come back and circle and mark what they had completed. And we had 3 groups of students, and I'll talk about a little bit more about that later. And the progress, again, of course, with things, the challenges we've had, and I'll talk about that later too, we had to always change our priorities. So we couldn't get all 150, but we got 90-some points. But that was always changing, the strategy and how we were going to go to the field. So again, looking at the map on the right, the red dots are where we did the full characterization head-on, sent to Lincoln Lab, and all the yellow sites are the sites where they went and described the soils and did graph samples. All right, next slide, please. Okay, just a little bit about the experience in the field. So if you look, we had 3 groups, and we had 8 to 10 students in each group. So if you look at the upper left photo, you can see one group. They're out on the alluvial plain that I talked about. They're out there describing and looking at soil. They're looking at the landscape. They have sheets where they're 232 sheets, description sheets, where they're talking about the landscape. And I just lost my screen for a second. Sorry about that. So they're describing the landscape. They're making notes and doing their job. That's what they're out there for. So then if you look at the bottom left, that's the group again together. So as I said, there's like 8 to 10 of them per group. You know, this is the good thing about that. They could help each other out. The other part about that, if you stood back and listened, man, they were talking a lot. and then all of a sudden the cell phone would ring and somebody would go walk off and they all had cell phones. And so eventually Nathan and I and Zamir, we'd talk to them and say, well, let's break this up. One of you do the whole, one of you do the texturing, one of you do the description, one of you look at the landscape, make notes. So eventually they got into good form and were able to get all 92 sites done. If you look up at the upper right photo and you see the person in the red hat, that's Donald Joseph from the Ministry of Agriculture. And he's describing to some locals what the project's about. And that was very typical. Anytime we went to go just dig a hole, you'd get 5, 10. We had up to 30 different locals come up and ask what we were doing. Very interesting. So I can just hear Donald right here saying, very important, very important. That was some of his best words he could speak in English. Very important, which may be très important in Creole. So if you look at the lower right, the trainees quickly learned how to auger and lay the soil samples out in order. And you can see the dark soil top ones on the right, and as it goes down, then it gets into the calcareous material. And they put a stick in at where a major soil change occurred. So they really figured that out very quickly. All right, next slide. So that was the sampling. That was the gathering samples and getting all the 92 sites. Now we go to the actual head-on sampling where we did full characterization. So Steve Monteith came to help out with that, which was very fortunate because we had to get 13 sites done within about 7 or 8 days. And I'll talk about challenges about that later too, because transportation was always a challenge. So if you look in the pictures on the left, we have 2 of the students, trainees, Zachary and Seville, and they're collecting material to send off, which we had to bag up and send to Lincoln. And if you look on the very right, that's Juno. He's hanging 5 samples that were dipped in saran for bulk density. So all this material, the 13 sites, had to be sent back to Lincoln. And, of course, in Haiti, you need permits, the language barriers, just trying to get down into Port-au-Prince to get the FedEx was difficult. You know, they're all challenges, but also very exciting. So just part of the story. But with that, we had 92 samples that we had grant samples. We had 13 full characterization sites that were sent to the lab. So in my mind, we had 7,400 acres. I think that's probably the most sampled, analyzed soil sampled on Earth. I don't know for sure, but I think probably pretty close. So with that, I just want to give a really big thanks to the Kellogg Soil Survey Lab, National Soil Survey Center, because they were very conducive in getting this done, getting it done on time, and so we could get all the data we needed. So thanks a lot for that. Anyway, next slide. So with that data, we were able to determine what we had out there. Basically, we developed 10 new soil series just for Haiti. We developed 11 map units, and there were 3 orders, mollisols, inceptisols, and alpha sols. And I expect these to be mapped more extensively, these map units and series that we developed, as they continue on with their soil survey. Some interesting things about the soils and the carbonate. I talked a lot about lime. There's some soils there that had 70 to 85% calcium carbonate. I thought that was pretty high. I've worked in western U.S. in arid areas and limestone areas, and I haven't seen that before, so I thought that was fairly unique. The other thing, if you look at the upper left, there's haploesterols on the upper right, map unit 1A, you probably can't see it, but the upper right area, haploesteps, those had some SARs in excess of 200, sodium absorption rate of up over 200, and some as high as 500. It's pretty limited just to that area, but that's pretty high. I've never seen that as well. The thing was, the clays were fairly low, like 13%, so it didn't really have any negative effects on the physical properties. And then petrocalcics in the foothills, if you look at the south area, those are foothills. Petrocalcics were very common throughout. There's beaucoup lime throughout the area, very much lime throughout. So go on to the next slide. Okay, so this whole survey project was very high profile in Haiti. It was very important for them to get the soils information. You know, they're really wanting to get that for food security. So if you look at the upper right picture, that's the Minister of Agriculture, Jacques Thomas. He's being taped by the local TV channel for Port-au-Prince. That was going to be on TV that night because this was the opening, the kickoff of the soil survey pilot project. On the left, I'm sitting there, and then there's the Deputy Chief of Mission of the United States Embassy with the sunglasses on, that's Steve Olive, and then some other dignitaries from the Ministry of Agriculture on to his left. Also on the bottom left, if you look at the crowd, there were about 75 to 100 local farmers that attended as well. So it was a big thing. It was on TV that night. The trainees received certificates, which to me, we could see that I could sense that it was really important to them. Getting something from the U.S., a certificate of training, kind of gave them a little bit of emancipation. So anyway, next slide. So some of the challenges. So you're going to get the real story here. Every morning we got there was something new, some new challenge, which made it exciting. But it's anywhere from maybe not having copy paper to would we have transportation to get the trainees to the field, but it kept it interesting. So like originally, we had 9 weeks scheduled to complete the training, just with a lot of logistics and different things, and we had to beat the rainy season. We ended up with just 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks to do the training and the mapping, and we had about 8 days to collect the samples for the detailed characterization. With the onset of the rainy season coming up, it's April 15th. We got out of there about April 10th, I think it was, but we did see some of the rains coming in downtown Port-au-Prince, a lot of flooding and a lot of issues there. Originally, like I said, we planned for 5 to 10 trainees. We ended up with 36, which logistically, if you look at the bottom right picture with the truck, getting them to the field was a difficult thing. I mean, we had 36 trainees to get out there. So transportation was typically a daily logistical problem. We never knew if we'd have 1 or 2 or 3 vehicles. And you can see we'd have to stack them in there, take them in and out. If you look at the top picture in the center, the equipment. We had to scramble to get enough equipment together for 3 groups. A lot of it was held back in customs. Think about this. We sent a box of soil knives to Haiti, didn't make it to customs. They sent them back to Lincoln. We should have known that, I guess. But note the kitchen knife in there. We hook or by crook, we could get whatever we could, and Nathan's equipment, Zamir's equipment, or my equipment, whoever we could get, the Bob's Wind Center equipment, so we did whatever we could do. We did get 2 boxes of soil taxonomy, however. That didn't do a lot of good. They were English versions. But we did get those. On a good note, Zamir brought his Trimble GPS. That's the bottom, really high-tech, good equipment. That really helped us out, too. It's got GPS capabilities and GIS capabilities in it and picture capabilities. So that was a good note there. But one thing we did learn during all these challenges was tipa tipa, and that's Haitian for little by little. And the trainees would tell us that every day when we get excited. They say, tipa tipa, Tony, tipa tipa, Nathan, or Zamir, or whoever, and it meant little by little. Just take your time, we'll get there. And truly enough, we did, and that was great. So, go to the next one. Next slide. Okay. Well, some of the contributions that made this successful. I'll just talk about that for the end. And just say that the trainees had great enthusiasm. They're very motivated, wanted to learn more, and actually 3 of them, Dejani Baptiste, Ashka, and Seville. And Dejani is with the brimmed hat on the upper picture, and Ashka has the white cap on the right. After we left, we needed more data, and we communicated them remotely, and they went out to the field to collect more data for us so we could finish up the project. So that really helped out a lot. We'd like to get 2 or 3 of these guys to come to the U.S. to do soil survey basic training. So if there's some way we can do that and anybody can help out with that, that would be great, because they're very motivated, really want to get things, really want to learn. They want to learn soil survey. It really surprised me how much, like I said, they were theoretical, but they really got their hands in the dirt and really wanted to do it. So it's great. On the bottom left, that's Kino Kade. He was manager of the center where we were training. He was a lifesaver. He coordinated, networked, got everything we needed when we couldn't get vehicles. He sometimes could get us an extra vehicle. He coordinated the food. When it wasn't there sometimes, they fed the trainees when they came. Transportation, he got the backhoes, he got the GPSs, all sorts of anything we needed. So you see him on the phone there. He's got talking, probably networking, trying to get us something, but I'm sure behind his back he's got another phone, because every Haitian generally has 2 phones, and they're always going back and forth from one to the other, and I can still hear those phones ringing all the time. Anyway, I also want to put a shout-out to the Ministry of Ag. When they had limited resources, they did all they could, but they really made our experience memorable. They always managed to come through, and it was a crunch, and there were people like Carly, Donald, Joseph, OJ, Serge, just to name a few. They were great. They came and helped us out a lot. And just overall, the expanded group throughout, because again, thank you very much for your help. This is just a bit. This was the ground level thing that we did, so we'll move on to the next part with Charles Comey, the project leader.
Thanks, Tony. So following a successful soil training and field sampling campaign, the next phase was to ship those samples to Lincoln for analysis, and also to local laboratories that we had identified. We identified the Public Works Laboratory for Engineering Properties, University of Haiti Lab, as well as the Babouin Training Center for Agricultural Excellence. They have a lab, so we provided samples so we can do some comparison to find out their capabilities and also how well their results compare to ours. So while we are not sampling and while the samples were being run in Lincoln, we had some visitors to continue work in Haiti. We had Dr. Rich Ferguson out of Lincoln, the lab supervisor, and he went out to do some quality control training and also to compare methodologies as well as demonstrate new techniques that do not require chemicals, because transportation of chemicals and purchase of chemicals was quite an obstacle for the people in Haiti. We also had a national conservation agronomist, Dr. Linda Sheffy, go down to help with developing soil database for Russell 2. As we know, erosion is a major problem in Haiti. So she did a lot of work, conducted a lot of interviews and field visits to see the cropping systems, identified some weather stations for climate data, as well as use the soil data when it was complete from NRCS to develop a database that is Haiti-specific so we could run soil erosion predictions. So once the data analysis was completed and entered into NRCS, Zamir took leadership in preparing a draft manuscript. Susan helped us with soil interpretations. Debbie Anderson, as our 3 director, helped a lot with correlation work. Paul Pinell with developing a database for Toby, Dr. Oyen, Dylan, everybody was involved, and we appreciate their supervisors for providing permissions and helping us to finish up this work. So next slide, please. So once all this came together, we had to work very hard to prepare the deliverables. Now, we've collected the data, extensive sampling. What next? How do we convert this into meaningful soil information? So we worked very hard. We had a meeting in Lincoln where we did soil correlation work, thanks to the funding from the FAS. And following that, following the completion of the data analysis and the correlation, we pulled out most of the bugs that were in the data set, and eventually, Zamir and others, Nathan, Tony, we worked together to start the preparation of the manuscript. So Zamir provided leadership with that, as well as leadership in digitizing all the maps. So the Haiti pilot survey deliverables were comparable to what we have in NRCS. In fact, we use NRCS standards to develop them. So we had a manuscript. We have detailed soil. The manuscript has detailed soil maps. Of course, we have block diagrams, profile descriptions, tabular data with soil, chemical, physical, and engineering properties. And of course, all this were incorporated into our regular delivery systems. So we had web soil survey developed, and thanks to Dylan in California as well as Toby Oyen, we had the soil web, and they have been working in advance in anticipation of the lateness to make sure that once the data was completed and approved, that we could have this, soil web operational. So thank you all very much. So for the next slide, please. Some examples of the soil profiles. We had, as Tony said, 3 soil orders, but you can see the differences in soil types. Even over a small area of about 3,000 hectares, there was quite a wide variety of soils. See different horizontalization. The Jacquet soil series, for example, and the Bellefontaine, you can see out there were incepti soils, while the Haute-Bouen and the Dillon were molly soils. So we agree that with the properties you can see, at least visually, these soils have different capabilities and limitations and will therefore require different management. Next slide, please. Again, some more selected properties. Like Tony mentioned, in the Dillon series, we had high levels of carbonate. This was not by any means the highest, but in the area, in the pilot area as a whole, we had high levels of carbonate material in the profile, and that caused some problems at times with the clays, because sometimes the carbonatic clays are so dominant that you begin to wonder what the texture is from field texturing as well as the laboratory data. Next slide, please. This slide simply shows you a catalog of the different landscapes and the associated soils that are formed under this landscape. So you can see a wide variety again, and it shows us that even over a very small area, you can have a wide variety of soils. Next slide, please. Some of the things that we included in the soil survey, of course, as in any other standard surveys, the block diagrams. So we had some representative block diagrams here. We have illustrated one for the south, the central area, and the north part of the pilot area. Next slide, please. Here we expanded the block diagram to show the soil types and that develop under different landscapes. Again, the John soils, molly soil, the Gantt Chart and incepti soil, Bellefontaine, molly soil, and Babouen. Now, I don't know if you can see those names, but the Babouen to the, I think to the left out here is also an incepted soil. Next slide, please. Other interpretations that we had were included surface organic matter and soil, available soil water or moisture. And for the organic matter, we found that the surface organic matter ranged from about 3 to about 17.76. It's pretty high for tropical soils. Most people feel tropical soils are very, very low in organic matter, but that wasn't quite the case out here in many cases. Available water, like Tony said, the soils were, the area was generally dry, but the soils have available water that range from about 8.76 about 18.76 centimeters per centimeter. There were several other interpretations, but given the limited amount of time, I did not include many of them. One of the ways, next slide please. One of the ways we tracked progress, and it also helped us with planning was the Gantt Chart. So if you look at that chart, we have our plan broken down by quarter, activities that we were supposed to conduct in the first quarter that never happened because of the government shutdown. So we effectively started this project in the second quarter, and I put a lot of pressure on the team, but they are very, very good spirited. There's a lot of energy and excitement, and they're very cooperative and worked hard to make sure that at least the sampling in the field was finished and the analysis, and now we're trying to improve upon the quality to make sure that it meets on all NRCS standards. Next slide, please. Towards the end, we had an end of project conference, and this included a training session. It was as a prelude, we had a training session where we went back and made the Haitians, okay, we've collected soil samples, that's where soil samples in the field, that's where you ended. But behind the scenes, we have also been doing the analysis. We've done some interpretations. We've done, the correlation work. It's unfortunate you were not able to participate in all that because of cost issues, but we went through all that process all over again, and we had some presentations and more training, and then we had a conversation with them, and they decided they were going to lead the presentation at the end of conference ceremony. So the end of project conference ceremony, all the presentations, or most of the presentations were made by the Haitians themselves as they displayed their new learned skills, and they were very proud. They demonstrated how soil survey works, web soil survey works, and we demonstrated soil web. They did a presentation on Russell too, and they did interpretations of the different maps that we had posted on the wall. There was very heavy participation by local farmers during the field visit. We had the Associate Chief for Conservation in attendance. We had the Leader for Well Soil Resources. We had the Director of International Programs, and this ceremony was presided by the Minister of Agriculture, with very strong support from the USAID team in Haiti. So we were very happy with the work, and we hope they were too. Next slide, please. After you do such hard work, you begin to wonder what is the impact of what you've done. Quite often the way to test that is you take someone out to eat, you ask them if they want some more, and they say no. Then you know how good that meal was to them. Well, in our case, the government of Haiti expressed satisfaction, but not only that, they have submitted a request to expand the project. In fact, the Minister of Agriculture submitted a request to expand the project to about 17,000 hectares in the next few years. We had satisfied partners, the NGOs, the universities, and our capacity building efforts were technical in their estimation, and we had good contributions from the local NGOs. The NGO was called Winner, and I think Tony mentioned that quite a bit, but they've become private. They've changed their name, and they're now Fondad. But they are continuing soil activities, soil training activities, using the same materials and the skills that we provided. During this project, we were able to provide computers, soil sampling equipment. We provided the training and other materials that they're going to be using for a long time. And so the fact that they requested an expansion meant a lot to us. Another way to measure progress is to look at one person who's the director of soil survey. When we first met him in 2011 with the leader of the Feed the Future program in Haiti at the time, or his name, I think it's Philip. The soil and forest director was very resistant to starting a soil survey, particularly coming out of the earthquake. He even said, I don't need soil information to plant trees because he's a forester by training. But eventually, as Tom said, with negotiation and explaining what soil survey is and how the information can be used, he was sold to the concept and accepted. But towards the end, you can see several pictures out there. You can see Tom in a white shirt, testing soil web by the mountain or by the hilltop. We can see Leonard Jordan, the associate chief, addressing the group. To the right, we can see Leonard Jordan and OJ, smiling OJ, beaming and satisfied as he leaves the ministry for retirement. He's very satisfied. One of the things that surprised him was that unlike most other projects, we did not require an office. Our scientists came and went straight to the field. And they were very impressed by the fact that we did so much with so little, because most of the projects they had so far had to do with millions of dollars. But our products, the quality, particularly after Sue did the interps using soil data, interps for basement, interps for irrigation, they saw the utility and the value of soil survey technology. So about future plans, next slide please. I mentioned earlier the minister has submitted a request to extend the project. We have submitted a proposal to FAS, USAID. This year they have a no-cost extension and could not include us, but we had a meeting last week and they asked us to prepare for FY16. So we continue to help with the dissemination of source information in Haiti. There are radio programs that are going on right now where they make announcements about our activity and the value it has and why they should conserve their soils. On the U.S. side, we've been attending conferences. Information on the Haiti project was presented at the World Soil Congress in Jeju, South Korea. We also submitted abstracts to ASA meeting in Long Beach, California. We're planning on a symposium at the Soil and Water Conservation Service Conference coming up in Greensboro this year, in the summer. And so we're really excited about what we did, and I think we've gone above the time that we're supposed to, but I wouldn't be happy if I didn't mention that we are thankful to the leadership of the Soil Science Division, World Soil Resources, National Soil Survey Center, NRCS in California, DC, North Carolina, that's in Raleigh, Nebraska, South Dakota, Hawaii, and all others, that help us make this project a success. I want to say that the governor's office and the senator's office in Nebraska were also present to welcome our Haitians during the Cochran visit. That meant a lot of sacrifice on their part. Our technology was even enhanced more by contributions from UC Davis, Lee Green and his soil web, and our partners in Haiti who sweated the soil analysis for the first time, digging holes they've never really worked that hard before. So thank you all so very much for your attention, and I think we'll pass it back to the moderator for the question session. Any questions? Can I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I had to rush to my list because I wanted to give enough room for questions. But I want to mention that we had tremendous partnership and tremendous assistance from FAS in Washington. They were responsible for logistics and transportation arrangements and making sure we're safe in Haiti, and they're a wonderful team. I just feel this would not have happened without them. As well as the team in Haiti, the USDA team in Haiti. Sometimes we had to travel on short notice, or sometimes we'll say we're traveling, but we don't make it, and that meant a lot of sacrifice on their time and trying to accommodate us. So we want to thank all our partners. We're really thankful for your help, and we look forward to future collaboration.
Like there may be one question on there.
All right. It might have come straight to you. I did not see any questions come through the moderator. Can you repeat the question?
Was it possible to correlate soil series from Puerto Rico to Haiti? And with Manuel there, he could speak more of that. But Manuel looked closely at that, and they were very closely. There were some that came very close, and actually one of the ones that we had with the petrocalcic, Oboen, I believe, was very close to that, but there's generally something slightly not quite there. But a part of southwest Puerto Rico was very similar in geology and landscape, so it did come very close, though, but none of the series did correlate over.
We did have a written question come in from Larry West. Larry asks, any current activities by Haitians who were trained?
I can take that. This is Charles Cochran. Last week we got an email from the Haitian team, and the Fondat Foundation, which was formerly WINA, is applying for grants, and they requested technical assistance from the Haitians who were trained during the project. Occasionally, when we look at our results and there are questions between the lab data and the field data, like Tony said, we would send those guys to the field, give them the GPS coordinates, and they will go out there and collect the information and send that back to us. So for now, that is how limited it has been. But as you know, soils activity requires funding. And like I said, without the funding from FAS, USAID, it would have been impossible to conduct this project. As far as future plans, we hope that the Haitians would follow through with their determination to request funds from the, international agencies such as the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank to continue activities on the field.
We do have a question that's come in verbally. This question is from Jacqueline Vega. Jacqueline, go ahead. Your line has been opened.
Well, while we're waiting for Jacqueline to type in her question, this is Lillian Woodshaver. I just want to thank our presenters again, Tom, Tony, and Charles. We really appreciate you taking time to share your experience doing this capacity building with the Haitians. And I think this is going to be helpful for other soil scientists for future activities. I do want to remind people in the national bulletins, the International Programs Division has a candidate database for future projects. Many times we'll get requests from either the Foreign Ag Service or some other organization looking for people with expertise, and we go to that database. So I just want to make sure that you know that that's available as an alternative. If you have additional questions, feel free to talk to Herbie Bloodworth, Marita McCree, and then new on our staff is Sasha Dixon. So do check out our listing on the directory. We're up to date with phone numbers and email addresses. But again, thank you all for participating in the teleconference, and I'll turn it back to the moderator.
Thank you. I did get a response from someone that said Jacqueline says she has no questions at this time.
So Jacqueline, this is Tony. Jacqueline's in Hawaii too, so you can ask me if you have something later. So we'll go there.
And at this time, we have no additional questions or comments. We would like to thank all of our speakers and thank you all in the audience for joining us today. This web conference has now concluded. You may disconnect.